In this step-by-step project tutorial, I'm going to teach you how to build or design this beautiful, responsive, multi-page crypto investment platform or dashboard using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Now, this website is going to be completely responsive, and that means we are going to design the website to look good on mobile phones, tablets, and literally all devices. We are going to make this website multi-themed. So as you can see, it has the dark and the light theme. And lastly, right after creating the website, we are going to make sure we put it on the internet. We are going to deploy this website and then make it available on the internet. All right, so let me walk you through the finished project. So as I said, this is going to be multi-page and have the dark and light theme as well. So we are going to check that out. But as you can see, we have a navbar at the top, as you can see, and we have some cards for the different cryptocurrencies that we have invested in. We have some fast payment methods here as well, and then we have a chart here at the bottom. Here on the right, we have our investments, some of the investments that we have, and we have some recent transactions as well. Now we have a cool sidebar here on the left side as well. Now let's check out some of the other pages that we are going to create. And this is the transactions page that we are going to design. And we have our wallets page as well that we are going to design. Now let's see how this is going to look on the dark theme, which looks amazing. As you can see, the dark theme looks beautiful. And this is the transactions page. This looks great as well. And the dashboard page also looks amazing. All right, so let's quickly check out how this is going to look on small devices. All right, so this is how the website is going to look, or the dashboard is going to look on mobile phones. We have our cool sidebar here, which we can open and close, of course. And that is it for the index page, or the main dashboard page. This is how it looks on light theme as well, and this is how it looks on the dark theme. Beautiful. Now let's go to the other pages and see. And this is how our wallet page looks, and this is how it looks on the light theme as well. Now let's check the transactions page, and this is how our transactions page, and that's the table with all the transactions. This is how it is also going to look. Now let's see how this is going to look on an iPad or a tablet. So for instance, let's choose iPad mini, and this is how the transactions page is going to look on an iPad mini. This on the light theme as well. Let's try and check the wallet page, and this is how it's going to look. Beautiful for the dark theme as well. And lastly, the home page or the index page, the main dashboard. This is how it is also going to look. So this is going to be completely responsive on all devices. And as I said, we are going to deploy this website, or we are going to put the website or this dashboard project on the internet. And so let's go ahead and buy our hosting and claim a free domain name and a free SSL. All right, so let's go ahead and do that, and we will start with the project. Let's go ahead and set up our hosting and domain name. And having used or having worked with many hosting providers, the one that I always recommend for everyone is Hostinga. Now in the description of this video, you are going to find a link that's probably the first link that's going to bring you to this page. And that's an affiliate link that's going to give you the best deal for your hosting purchase. Okay, so go ahead and then click that link. That's going to bring you to this page. And if you visit this page and the design is a little different, that's because it changes from time to time, right? So this Hostinga, let's go ahead and then check out some of the hosting web hosting packages that they have. And right here is their premium shared hosting. Okay, so for only $2.80 per month, you are going to have, or you are going to be able to host 100 websites. They give you 100 gigabytes of SSD storage, as you can see here, free weekly backups, they give you free domain name. How cool is that? For most of the hosting providers, you actually buy the domain name separately. Okay, here they give you a free domain name and a free email as well. So they give you a bunch of other stuff that are very cool and very helpful as well. Right, so this is a perfect deal for me. I'm going to go ahead and then click add to carts, and as I said, make sure you use the link in the description to get the best deal on Hostinger. All right, so this is very affordable, so I'm going to go ahead and then use the 48 months. Okay, and that's going to give me the best deal. And right here, I'm going to go ahead and then enter my email. Right, so that's my email. I'm going to use PayPal. As you can see, my total is $133. Okay, now I have a coupon for you. Okay, and this is the best coupon on Hostinger. Go ahead and enter the coupon code EGATO. Okay, that's right here. Enter that and apply and see what you get. You get 10% discount. So that is a very cool deal, and this is a very reliable hosting. That is why I went ahead and then got you this very important deal. All right, so we are going to go ahead and submit our secure payment. All right, so after the payment, make sure you check out your email to finish up everything, confirm your email and all that. And right here, I'm going to go ahead and then log in. So right here, I just logged in, and I'm going to go ahead. As I said, they give you a free domain name, so you can go ahead and then claim the domain, okay, which is really cool. On most platforms or with most hosting providers, you actually have to buy the domain name separately, which will cost you probably $10 or more. Right, so the domain name I'm going to buy is Dami Egator, and I'm going to use the .com. Okay, so let me quickly check if that's actually available, and it is. Okay, so let's go ahead. As you can see here, that would cost me $14, but here they are giving it for me. They're giving it to me for free, which is really cool. Let's go ahead and then claim this domain name. Yeah, I forgot to mention, but they give us a free SSL as well, so let's go ahead and install that. Yep, and that's installing, and that's going to make sure every traffic on the website is secure. All right, so now let's proceed to work on the project, and let's go ahead and create our project. Just a folder. I'm going to call mine crypto dashboard. You can create yours on your desktop wherever you want. Now I'm going to open this project with VS Code. Visual Studio Code is the text editor I'm going to use. And right away, let's go ahead and create our folder structure. First, we are going to have our index page or our home page, which is going to be the dashboard page, right? Which is going to be the dashboard page. So I'm going to call that index.html. So this is the page that is going to load when we visit the website. I'm going to have a folder here called assets, and that is going to have all the images that we need. So let me just paste all the images in here. Right, so these are the images that we need for the entire project. I'm actually going to leave a link to these images. Okay, so you can check the description for that link. Let's have a CSS file in the root of the project. Let's have style.css. You can call it index.css, whatever. Let's have a JavaScript file as well. So main.js. Okay. Now this is going to be a multi-page website. So let's create at least 2 more pages. And the first one is going to be the wallet page. So let's have a wallet folder and have wallet.html. And also we are going to have a CSS file specific to this page, right? So that's for the wallet. Let's create another folder called transactions. So I'm going to create transactions folder, and then inside that I'm going to have transactions.html, right? and transactions.css. Perfect. All right, so this is the entire project structure that we need. There's the entire project structure, and I'm going to use Control W to close all these files and leave the index HTML and then the style.css. I'm actually going to increase this so that you see everything that is happening. Right, so if the font was small, now you can see that this is the entire folder structure. We have our images here that is inside the assets folder. We have our transactions folder with the transaction HTML and CSS files. We have wallets folder with wallet CSS and HTML. We have our index HTML and then our style CSS, where is going to be our main styling file, and then our main JavaScript file here as well. All right, so of course we are going to start with the home page, and VS Code has a default or pre-installed plugin called Emmet, okay, and is used for shortcuts basically. So with Emmet we can do exclamation and then tab, and we are going to get this boilerplate for our HTML. Right, so right away let's go ahead and have a title for our project. I'm going to call this responsive multi-page crypto investment dashboard. So that's for our title. I'm actually going to link our CSS file, this CSS file right here. So I can do link, and then I can go ahead and link my CSS file. So style.css. Perfect. Let me actually have a comment. Nice. All right, so let's see. The first thing we are going to start with is the navbar. Instead of me coming to the file and opening the HTML file here manually, I can actually go ahead. I can actually use this live server plugin to go live. Okay, so you go ahead and install this live server, and after you are done, you are going to get this go live right here at the bottom right. So you click on it and it's going to open this project in your default browser. So that is what I'm going to use throughout this project. And the benefit is that once you make any changes and then you save, for instance, let me have something here. Let me just have some random text. You can see we have that random text here. Okay, if I come back and change this to, let's say, an H1 and have something here, you can see we save it and the changes is updated. Okay, the page refreshes by default. Right, we don't have to come back and then refresh it manually. It is done automatically for us, which is really cool. If you don't know this, go ahead, install the live server plugin that I just showed you right here. And there is actually another one called preview on web server, which is this. Sometimes it even works better than the live server plugin, so you can install either one. And with the preview on web server, you right click and then you click this VS Code preview server launch on browser. Okay, and so that's how that works. Let's go ahead and start with our navbar. Our navbar is going to be inside a nav tag. We are going to have a div with a general class of container, and actually we are going to have another class of nav __ container. Now I said this is going to be a general class, and I'm going to explain that when I get to the CSS. Now here we are going to have our logo, which is going to be inside of an anchor tag or a link tag, and this link will just refresh the page for us. So that is the current file. Let's actually give this a class of nav logo. So nav __ logo. And inside the anchor tag, we are going to have an image. Okay, so let's have an image tag here. And we are going to go into our assets folder and then get that logo. Okay, so let's go into our assets and get the logo PNG. Right, so that is for the logo. Below the anchor tag, we are going to have a div with a class of nav __ search. And I'm doing these shortcuts using Emmet, so you can go ahead and search Emmet and learn more about their shortcuts, or you can even watch video tutorials, of course. In here we are going to have an icon, and so to use an icon we are going to use a library called icon scout. Okay, so go to iconscout.com and let's grab the CDN first. So go to icons, the unicorns font library, scroll down and then grab this link, come back to your HTML and paste that. Right, let me leave a comment here. I'll just duplicate this and move one up and call this icon scout CDN. Perfect. All right, so we have the CDN. Let's come back here and explore the library. We're going to use the free. Okay, so choose the line right here, and we are going to need a search icon for this. So right here you can just paste what you just copied. Perfect. All right, so we have our search icon. If I save it and come back, you can see we have our search icon. We have the image as well, which is the logo. Now let's have an input with a type of search, and we don't need a name or an ID. We only need a placeholder, and we will just say search. Below this div we are going to have another div called nav profile wrapper, and inside that we are going to have another div with a class of nav theme. Actually, I'm going to make this a button, and I'll give this nav theme btn class. Okay, now inside this as well we are going to need an icon, so come back and let's search the moon icon. Okay, so that's a dark theme icon, and just paste that. Below this button we are going to have a div with a class of nav profile. I'm going to have another div with a class of nav profile photo, and in here I'm going to have an image. So let's get into our assets and search profile one. Now below this nav profile photo we are going to have an h5. That will just say any name, and below the h5 I'm going to have an icon, and that's going to be an angle down icon. That's right here. Just copy that, come back and paste. And lastly, below this div I'm going to have a button with a class of nav __ menu btn, and that's going to be a bars icon. Bars, yeah, and we're going to need this for the responsiveness, right? Perfect. So that is it for our navbar. That is the HTML we need for our navbar, and we can go ahead and make this look good using the CSS. I'm actually going to comment this. I'm going to leave this code very commented or well commented, so that you don't have any problem in case you are going to get the source code. All right, so we have our CSS already linked, and so we can go ahead and start styling this project. Yep, so this is what we have so far for our navbar. Let's go ahead and style this. Before we style our navbar, we are going to have some general styles. Okay, we are going to have some things in place that are going to make, or that is going to make our styling for the whole website very easy, right? And the first thing we are going to have are some variables. Okay, we are going to have some CSS root variables, and the first few variables are going to be colors, and then we'll have a variable for our patterns, and then we'll have some for our radius, and then a transition variable as well, so that we have some uniform values for our whole website. And for the colors especially, it is going to be very handy when we get to the theme customization, okay, the dark and the light theme functionality. These variables are going to make our lives very easy, right? So the first variable we are going to have is going to be a color white, and that is FFF, that is the hex code for white, pure white. We are going to have a color for light, which is going to be light gray, and that is a hex code of F0EFF5, right? That is our light color. We are going to have some more variables, and I'll just paste that. So we have color gray light, which is a darker shade of gray as compared to the two variables we had first. We have color gray dark, which is darker than the light, and it goes on like that. Okay, so these are the colors that we need for the entire project. Down here we have a variable for our padding, we have a few more variables for our radius, and we have a variable for our transition as well, which is all 300 milliseconds. The is the timing function, 300 milliseconds is the duration for whatever transition we are doing, and all is the properties that are going to change. Okay, so if we are changing the color, then that is going to have that transition. If you are changing the width, it's going to have that transition. If you are changing the position, it's going to have that transition. I hope that makes sense. Technically, you can change your position, but you get the idea. All right, so that is for our root variables. Let's go on, and I'm going to have some general styles here, some more general styles, and let's target every element on the page. Okay, and looking at everything here, you can see some elements have some patterns. Okay, you can see some space around okay, you can see some pattern around here as well. This button, for instance, has a border and a background and a whole lot, right? So let's target every element and then make sure they all have a clean slate, okay, a clean style, right? So every margin or any element that has a margin should have a margin of 0. Every element that has a padding should have a padding of 0 as well. Every element with an outline should have an outline of 0. Every element with a border should have a border of 0. So now I save, and as you can see, our border for the button, for instance, is gone. The paddings and the margins are gone as well. I'm actually going to have the background set to be transparent as well. So now the background for the buttons are also gone. Okay, now let's move on, and I'm going to have the appearance set to none. So any element with appearance should be set to none. I'm going to set text decoration to be none as well, and that is for our links. Every link has an underline, which is the text decoration, and we are setting that to none. I'm going to set the list style to be none as well. And other lists have bullets. That's for instance, right? For an example, an added list has bullets. Other lists usually have numbers, and we are setting those to be none. And lastly, I'm going to set the box sizing for each element to be border box. Okay, so every element will maintain the width and the height that we give it. Okay, so for instance, if we have a width and a height of 40 rems, and then we give a padding to that element, we expect that element to use the padding inside, or it should use the padding inward instead of extending the width that we gave it. I hope that makes sense. So that is for the box sizing. And so let's move on and target the HTML tag, and the font size for this project is going to be 12 pixels. Target the body, okay, the body tag, and give it a background of the color light, right, which is the root variable we have up here, F0EFF5, right? So that is what we are using for the background of the body. If I save, you should notice a slight change, which is not really significant or hard to, it is very hard to notice because that is a very slight difference between the white and the light. So let's see, I'll just so now you see that that's actually the variable we are using. Okay, I hope that makes sense. So we are using this for the background of the body. Okay, so that is for the background. Let's set the font family to be Poppins. Okay, you're going to use Poppins for this project. So to get Poppins into your project, let's go to Google Fonts and let's grab Poppins for this project. I'm going to search Poppins. You can use any font you want, but I'm going to use Poppins right here. So for web, I'm going to use the imports. Okay, that is for the CSS, right? So I'll just grab everything inside the opening and closing style tags and then paste that way up here. Okay, right before the root variables. All right, so now we are going to need, or we are going to use Poppins for our font and then sans serif as a backup. I'm going to give the body a main height of 100 viewport height, and the text color is going to be color gray dark. I'm going to set a display of grid, and the grid template columns is going to be 17 rem for the left side, auto for the middle, and then 30 rem for the right side. Okay, so the left side in this case is going to be the sidebar. You are going to really understand this. We will come back to these styles a little bit later when we get to the elements that are having these effects. By the middle, we're going to have the graph, the cards and all that is going to have the auto. And then the right side, we're going to have the investments, and the recent transactions is going to be 30 rem. I hope that makes sense. I'll come back to this. And the gap is going to be 2 rem. And lastly, I'm going to have a transition because we are going to actually need that. Okay, a transition of the variable transition, which is in this case is the all 300 milliseconds is perfect. So now let's move on and grab the general container class. Remember I said we will make this a general class, which is the container class, right? So that is it. Let's give it a width of 96 viewport width and a margin inline of auto. Let's have some styling for our images. So every image should have a display of block. They should have a width of the appearance. They should have an object fit of cover. Okay, perfect. Now things are looking weird, but they are going to fall in place as we progress. Now let's target all the headings and style them. All the headings are going to have a font weight of 600. They are going to have a line height of 1.1. They are going to have a color, a text color of color dark. So that is it. Let's progress and target. I'm going to target all the headings. Okay, so H1, I'll give that a font size of 2.3 rem. And actually, let me give that a font weight of 900. Okay, I'll target the H2, give that a font size of 1.5 rem and a font weight of, let's do 800. Now for the H3, I'll give that a font size of 1.2 rem, and that's it. Let's target the H4, give that a font size of 1 rem. I'll target the H5, give that a font size. Actually, let me make this 1.4, make this 1.2. This will be 1 rem. For the H6, the font size is going to be 0.8 rem, right? Perfect. Now I'm going to target the paragraph. Okay, any paragraph tag should have a font size of 0.86 rem. Let's target the small tag, give that a font size of 0.77 rem. Now we are going to have some classes that are going to have effects on some elements that we are going to have. Okay, so maybe we want something to have a background of primary, and that is going to have the purple background. Okay, looking at this, the color primary is okay, it's blue. So yeah, we have color purple, color success, danger, and warning, and all that, right? So we are going to have these general classes so that in case we want a text to have, for instance, a green color, we give it a class of color success. In case we want it to have a yellow or a brown color, we give it a class of color warning and all that. Okay, so let's have these classes down so that in case we need it, we just give it we give whatever element that class. Okay, so for instance, we are going to have text muted, and that's just going to have color gray light. Okay, let's have primary, so any element with a class of primary should have a color of color primary. Let's have bg primary, and that is going to be background, the color primary. Actually, let me give it a box shadow of 0.8 and then 0.8 rem, and the color is going to be color primary light. So 0 for the x-axis, 0.8 for the y-axis, 0.8 for the blur, and then there's the color for the box shadow. Now for bg primary light, that's going to be background of color primary light, and these are all going to make sense as we progress with the project. Okay, for now just bear with me as I type them out. I'm going to have color danger for this, and I'm going to have bg danger, sorry. So color is going to be color danger. Let's move on. Sorry, bg danger, that's background, right? So we need a box shadow. Let me just copy this, paste it, and color primary. So this is going to be color danger light, if that makes sense. So for bg danger light, I'll need a background of color danger light. Let's move on to success. So success, any element with a class of success is going to have a color of color success. Any element with a class of color bg success is going to have a background of color success and a box shadow. So just copy this and make this success light. I hope that makes sense. And lastly, and that's just going to have a background of color success light. That's for the success. Now let's move on to warning. And for any class or any element with a class of warning, any text inside of that is going to have the color warning, which is like brownish yellow, something like that. Let's have bg warning, and that's going to have background of the color warning and the box shadow, which I should just copy this. So this is going to be warning light, warning light, and give it a background color warning light. Yep. And lastly, we have purple. Purple, that'll have a color of color purple. Let's have the background, so bg purple, and that should have, in this case, background color purple and a box shadow. purple light. Or do we not have that? I guess not. So I'll just remove this and let's have BG purple light, background color purple light. Okay, and I should make sure this actually exists. So we have color purple and purple light. So why do I not have, let's see, I'll just duplicate this and have the BG purple, and that is going to have a background, sorry, a box shadow. Right, and lastly we are going to have BG dark. That's going to have a background of color dark and a box shadow. I'll just paste this, and there's going to be, actually I'm going to make this an RGBA. So red, green, blue, and alpha of 0, 0, 0, and then 0 0.2. Actually 0 0.12. Okay, so 12% alpha. And that's it, guys. These are the general styles and classes that we need for the entire project. Okay, so let's move on to the navbar and make sure this actually looks like a navbar. I'll leave this commented. I'll make this commented for you guys. Just paste this here, right, and move on to the navbar. All right, so let's get a nav, which is inside the nav tag, and give it a width of 100 viewport width. Right, let's give it a background as well of the color white. Let's give it a display of grid, just so we can place items to the center, and that will put the direct child, which is the container, right in the middle. Okay, it will put this direct child right in the middle of the nav, if that makes sense. So horizontally and vertically is going to be placed in the middle. Okay, and you can't see that right now, but I'm going to prove it to you soon. Okay, now let's give this a height of 4 rem, and I'm going to give it a position of fixed. It's going to be 0 from the top and 0 from the left. I'm going to give it a Z index as well of, let's do 10, just so it sits on top of everything on the page, right? Perfect. So now I'm going to move on and get the direct child, which is the nav __ container. Come on, container. Right, let's display this to be flex. I'll justify content to be space between, and align items to the center. Right, let's target the nav logo, so nav __ logo, and give it a width of 7 rem. So there we have it, and you can see things are not well aligned because of this image size. So I'm actually going to target that right now, and that is the profile. So let's get the nav __ profile. That's the class we gave to, actually let me target the wrapper. Okay, nav profile wrapper, and give it a display of flex. I'm going to align items to the center. I'll give a gap of 4 rem, justify content to be space between, and lastly give it a cursor of pointer so that it looks clickable. That's not it, or that's not all. That's not all. I'm going to go on and target the nav profile itself and give that a display of flex as well. gap of 1 rem and align items to the center. Now let me target the image. Okay, so that is a nav profile photo. Nav profile photo. Give that a width of 3 rem. Same for the height. Border radius of 50% and an overflow of heading. Perfect. So that is all we have for now. But one thing, this icon isn't going to be needed. Okay, this button right here is not going to be needed except for when we get to the media queries. Okay, so you know what? Let me go up to the general styles and say any button tag should have a pointer or should have a cursor of pointer. Okay, right. So now when we hover over it, we should have that cursor. Okay, so let me target this and actually remove it. Okay, let me style it first and then remove it. And we gave that a class of nav menu btn. I'll give it a background. I'm actually going to target the link. I'm actually going to target the icon inside of that and give it a font size of 2.6 rem just to make it bigger. There you have it. And I'm going to target the button itself, which is what I put this class on, and give it a display of none. Okay, I hope that makes sense. We don't need it on small screens. We only need it we don't need it on the large screen. We only need it on a small screen. All right, so coming back up top right after the logo style, I'm going to target our search, which is this right here, and it's a div that has the icon and the input. Let me show you quickly. Nav search, which is this div right here, and this is what we just styled. Okay, so the nav profile wrapper. Okay, right. So let's get the search and set the background to be color light. Give the border radius to be the radius 1. I'm going to give it a padding of 0.5 rem for the top and bottom, and then 1 rem for the left and right. I'm going to give it a width of 40 rem. I'm going to display that to be flex. Give it a gap of 1 rem. Align items to the center. And the text color is going to be color gray light. And also I'm going to, let's save this and see what we have. That's it. And let's see, I'm going to position it. Actually, I'll just leave it like this. Okay, I think this looks good enough. Right, so right after the nav search, let's try tapping this and see what we have. Okay, you can see we have some more things to do here. So what I'm going to do is target the nav search and then the input. Okay, with a type of search. I'm going to give that a color of color dark, a width of 100%, a background of transparent. Yep, color dark. What is happening? Right, so now this is what we have. Perfect. Let me target these two icons, so nav container and the icons inside of that. I'm going to give them a font size of 1.6 rem. Perfect. So we are basically done with our nav bar. We are done with our nav bar, right? So the next thing we want to work on should be the sidebar. Okay, so let's go back to our HTML and and I'm going to grab this comment, come down here, that's below the nav. We are going to have our sidebar, and this should be Navbar. For the sidebar, let's have a menu tag and give that a class of sidebar. We are going to have our link, which the first one is going to be the home page. Okay, so this current file that we are working in, and inside the link we are going to have two elements. The first is going to be an icon, a dashboard icon. So let's just grab this, come back to our project, and then paste that. Wait, did I not copy that? Okay. And below the icon we are going to have an h5, and that's going to say dashboard. So I'll just duplicate this link a few more times, and the second one is going to go to, actually for the second one I'll just leave it blank for now, but it's going to say exchange. And so let's search an icon that makes sense. Exchange. Okay, I'll just use this. Right, the next is going to be wallet. So let's search an icon for wallet. So I just replace this. You have transaction or transactions plural, transactions, right? I'll just copy this for transactions. We have analytics, and so you can, I'll just use this. Oh, actually, let me use this one for the analytics. We have messages, so you can just search messages here, copy this envelope icon, come back and paste, and I'll just duplicate this a few more times. So messages, help, and then settings. Okay, so I'll search help, and I can just use this. Help center, change the icon, and this will be settings. I'll just search the settings icon. Perfect. All right, so that is it for the HTML. Now what we have to do is to make sure we get rid of all these except for the first one. Okay, so I'll just rewrite it for the first one, HTML. Perfect. Now for the wallet page, we are going to create that. So let's go to the wallet and then get the wallet HTML. For the transactions page, we are going to create that page as well, and that is it. Okay, so the rest you can leave them blank. All right, so for the first one, which is the dashboard, that's the current page we are on right now. Let me actually give that a class of active, just so we can style that differently to make it stand out as the active page that link or this link corresponds to. All right, so let's hop back to the CSS. So I'll go up top and then copy this comment, come down and then paste that comment, and this is going to be the sidebar. Perfect. So this is what we have so far from the HTML. let's target the sidebar. So the menu with the class of sidebar and give that a margin top of 5 rem. Now remember this navbar has a height of 4 rem, right? And we also we give it a position of fixed, meaning it's not going to go anywhere. And so, wait a minute, did we give that a top? Okay, so because of this margin top, you can see the sidebar have been pushed down. Okay, so initially without this margin top, you can see some parts of it. The dashboard, for instance, is hidden below this navbar. So we have to first push it down before we actually style it. Okay, so we give it a margin top and a minimum height of, first let's calculate this, 100 viewport height, and then the margin top that we gave it. Okay, so that's it. We're going to display that to be flex, and the flex direction is going to be column. And also I'm going to give it a gap of let's do 0.2 rem. Perfect. All right, so that is for the sidebar itself, the menu. Now let's target the links inside the sidebar. Give that a display of flex, align items to be center, and I'm going to give it a gap of 1 rem, padding of 1.5 rem. For the top, 4 viewport width. For the right side, 1.5 rem. For the bottom, 2 viewport width for the left. Okay, I hope that makes sense. So for the left side of each of these lengths, we have 2 viewport width. For the right side is 4 viewport width. For the top and bottom is 1.5 rem. Transition of the variable transition, and I'm going to give it a background of transparent, give it a border radius. Let's see, I'm actually going to give it a color of color gray dark. Perfect. All right, now let's target the links. Now I'm going to target the icons inside of each link and give that a font size of 2 rem just to increase it. Perfect. Now let's target the H5s, which have the titles of each of the links, and give that a font weight of 500, and also the color, I think it's actually color gray dark, I'm not sure, but yeah, perfect. Actually, let me give this color of color gray dark as well. Nice. Now I'm going to target the links and give it a hover effect. Okay, I'm going to give them a hover effect. So sidebar links on hover, the background is going to be color white. The text color is going to be the primary. I'm going to give the border left to be 0.5 rem, solid, color primary. Now there's not too bad actually. It's not too bad. But what I want to do is to prevent the shift. Okay, so when we hover, you can see we have a slight shift for each link that we hover on. And to prevent that, I'm going to subtract the border width from the padding on the left. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so because of this border, which is 0.5 rem that we are giving it, that is what is causing this shift. Okay, so I'm just going to subtract that from the padding on the left side of each link. So to achieve this, I'm going to give a padding left. That's when we hover on any of the links, we give a padding on the left of a calc. So we have to calculate this. So we initially it was 2 viewport width, so we are going to just subtract the border left from it, which is 0.5 rem. All right, so this right here, 0.5 rem is what we are subtracting from the padding that we gave right here. Or is it? Okay. We are going to subtract that from this. And that's what we are doing here. Okay. I hope that makes sense. So now if I save this, you can see we don't have that sudden shift. Okay. Although it shifts a little bit, but it gets back to its normal place. I hope that makes sense. But of course, if you want that shift, if you want that if you want this, you can just leave it at that. Okay, you can even increase the border left to be 1 rem, and it's going to give you a more cool effect. I don't know, I'll just make it how I want to make it, right? So let me leave a comment here. Wait a minute, this should be for the active class. Okay, so this is going to be the active. That's any link with an active class should have these styles. I hope that makes sense. And for the hover, so any sidebar link on hover, we are going to just change the background, okay, to make it color white, and the text color itself is going to be color primary. I hope that makes sense. Since the dashboard is what the active class is on, that is why we have that style. Okay, so yeah, that makes sense. All right, so for the active class, we give it a background, we change the color to be primary. Why is the primary color not working? I don't understand. Color primary RGBA. I want this to change to be a primary color. And you know what? I'll just grab everything from here and then just change the color here to be color primary. Okay, so now yeah, that works. So I'll just remove this right here, right? And on hover, that doesn't work too. So probably what I'm going to do is just a sidebar on hover. I'll grab everything and then give it a color of the color primary as well. Okay, so yeah, that's what we have, and that is all for our sidebar. Okay, that is all for our sidebar. So what we need to do is to get to the next section of the page, which is going to be this main section with the class and all that. So let's get to that real quick. Back to the HTML. I'll just grab this comment, come way down here and then paste that. That's going to be the main area. Let's have a main tag with a class of main, and in here we are going to have a header with a class of main underscore header, and let's have an h1, and come on, whose guy is that, and an input, and that's it for the header. Now below the header we are going to have a section which is going to have the cards. Okay, so let's give this a class of main cards, and each card is going to be inside an article tag with a class of card. Now in each card we are going to have a div with a class of card header, or we are going to have a header, a body, and a footer, okay, for each card. So card header, we should have card body, and then card footer. Okay, and then for the header we are going to have card header left, so we will have a left and a right side, right? For the body you'll get to that, and for the footer we are going to have a left and a right side as well. Okay, so left and right. So for the card header left we are going to have an image and an h3. So let's have an image here. We should get into our assets and get a BTC. Below the image, you are going to have an H3 that will say BTC. So that is for the left side of the card header. Now for the right side, we are going to have another image, which is just going to have the Visa image. Okay, and that's it. Now for the body, we are going to have an H1 that will have the balance. So this the balance. Below the balance, we are going to have a div with a class of card body chip, and that's going to have an image. Let's go into our assets and get the card chip. Okay, that is for the body. Now for the footer left, we are going to have a small tag, and let's just say card holder. Below the small tag, we are going to have an H5, and it's going to have the name of this card holder. Right, that's for the left. Now for the right, we are going to have two divs. The first one is going to say expiry, that's for the class, and the second is going to be CVV. We actually don't need these classes for the footer, right? But you have a small tag, and below that you have an H5 that'll have the date for the expiry. Now for the CVV, we are going to have a small tag here as well, and then an H5. All right, so that is for an entire card. Okay, that is for one card. All right, so what I'm going to do is duplicate this 2 more times and then edit it. Okay, so 1, 2, and we have our 2 cards, and I'm going to edit the content. Actually, you know what, let's go ahead and style this first, and then I'll come back to actually edit the content. Right, so let's see what we have so far, and this is it. This is what we have from our HTML. So let's go ahead and give this some styling. Actually, let me grab this. I'll right away target the main header, and I'm going to display that to be flex. Give it an align items of center, a gap of 1 rem, and margin top of 6 rem. Okay, so there we have it. Now I'm going to target the main header input, which is the date. So a type of date. Come on, what's going on? Right, I'm going to give this a padding of 0.5 rem, 2 rem. I'm going to give it a background of color light, actually color white, and give it a color of color gray dark. Okay, so that is our date. Now let's target the section that wraps around the cards, and we gave that a class of main cards, and so let's give it a margin top of 1.5 rem. I'm going to display this to be grid, and the grid template columns is going to be repeat 3 times 1fr, or you can do 1fr, 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 and the gap is going to be 1.5 rem. So we save, and this is what we have. All right, now let's move on and get the individual cards. So each article with a class of card should have, for now, we are going to give them all the same background, but there's going to be a linear gradient. Okay, so let's do a hex code of FF7967 or 6F, and the second color is going to be BD261B. Okay, so those are the 2 colors for the linear gradient. Now let's give it a pattern of card pattern. Let's give it a border radius of radius 3, and those are the variables that we have for our radius. And the height is going to be 16 rem. We are going to display this to be flex. The flex direction is going to be column. Let's justify content to be space between, and actually I'm going to give this a box shadow of 0 for the x-axis, 2 rem for the y-axis, 3 rem for the blur, and this is going to be color danger light for the color, and that's it. Okay, so this is what we have for our card. Now let's target the I'm going to make sure all the texts are white, so the card, and then I'll grab every text and give it a color of white. Okay, now I'm giving it a plain white color and not using the white variable because I want it to be white regardless of the theme that we are using. Okay, and you're going to understand this when we get to the theme customization. So let's move on, and I'm going to grab the second and the third cards just so I can change the background color for those and the box shadow as well. So the nth child, I'm going to get a second one and give that a linear gradient. I just copy this and then change the colors for this to be, this is going to be 7F8191 27282F. Right, that's for the second one. And the box shadow is going to be 0, 2 rem, 3 rem, RGBA of this, which is black with 12% of alpha. I'll just duplicate this one more time for the third card, which is this one, and we'll have 697A FD for the first color, and then 4F15B4 for this one. Perfect. All right, now the shadow is going to be color primary light. Okay, so that's what we have. Perfect. Now we have the colors. Now let's go on and style the content in the cards. Before that, on hover, I want the box shadow to be none. Okay, so yep. And why is the transition not working? Did I not give this any transition? All right, so let's give this a transition of the variable transition. So now we should have a smooth hover effect. Cool. All right, so let's move on and grab the card header. Each card has a card header, so we display that to be flex, justify content to be space between, and align items to the center. Perfect. Now let's move on and grab the card header left. That's going to be displayed flex as well, a gap of 0.5 rem, and I'm going to align items to the center here. H3, and I'm going to give that a font weight of 200. Now I'm going to grab the image inside the left, so the IMG, give it a width of 2 rem, just so we make it smaller. That's the Bitcoin image. Okay, and I'll give it a border of 1 pixel solid white. I'll give it a border radius as well of radius 1, and then I'll give it a pattern of 0.4. Okay, so there we have it. Now let's move on and get the card body. I'll give that, actually let me reduce the size of this. Okay, that's for the right. Give it a width of 3 rem, right? So for the card body, I'm going to display flex and justify content to be space between. Come on. Justify content to be space between. Save, and that's what we have. Now let's grab the chip. That's card body, and then chip. That's the class we gave to the div that wraps around the chip. We just give it a width of 3.5 rem, and that's it. All right. Now let's get a footer. So card footer, display that to be flex, justify content to be space between, align items to the center. Perfect. And lastly, card footer, right? We just display flex and give it a gap. Okay, up to rem, and that's it, right? And we have our cards with cool hover effects. Perfect. All right, actually I'm going to go up top to the body and set user select to be none. Okay, just so we or nobody can select anything on the page. I hope that makes sense. And my internet has been disconnected, that is why we don't see the icons, but I'm going to bring them back. And as I said, since we are done with the styling, I can go ahead and edit the content of the cards. So I'll just do that off screen or off camera, and then I'll get back to you guys. All right, so I just edited the two other cards with different content. So you can, of course, you can pause and then type them out. I just edited that, and if I save this and we come back to our project, this is what we have. Perfect. All right, so we are done with the cards section. Now let's move on to the fast payment section, which are the little buttons that we have down here. Let's move on to that. So let's come back to our HTML. First, let me copy this. And should I just call this cards? Yep. So I'll come down here right below the section, but inside the main. Okay, I'm going to come on. I have to copy this again, and this is going to be the fast payment. This should be very simple. We just have a section with a class of fast payment, and let's have an h2 that says fast payment. I don't know if, yeah, that's it. And we are going to have an added list with a class of fast payment underscore badges, and then we have our list items. The first, you know what, let's actually give this a class of fast payment underscore badge, and inside that we are going to have an h4 just with a plus. Okay, the first one is just going to have a plus. Now duplicate this, and the second one is going to have an h5, and this is going to say training. Below that we are going to have an h4, the amount, so this is going to be $50. And I'll duplicate this a few more times. So we have training. We are going to have, actually, you know what, this should have a span first, which should have a class. Now the classes are going to vary. This one in particular is going to have a BG primary, and the h5 and the h4 are actually going to be inside a div. I hope that makes sense. So we have a span and a div, but inside the div we have an h5 and an h4. Now for this BG primary, remember we had, I'll just close this. Remember we had these styles, that's a class. We had those styles right here. You can see we have BG primary. So in this case, it's going to have a background of color primary and a box shadow of color primary light. So we have BG danger, which we are going to use as well, BG success, BG warning, and all that. Okay, so that's what is happening here. We just add the classes and they are going to take effect. All right, so I'll duplicate this once, and the next one is going to be internet, and that's going to be $40. But this one is going to have BG success. Right, I'll duplicate this one more time, and this is going to be gas, and gas is going to be $180, and this is going to be primary as well. You know what, I'll just speed this up. You get where this is going, so I'll just speed this up and then duplicate it and edit the contents real quick. Okay, all right, so I just edited the LIs, all of them, and that's what we have so far. We have food with BG success, we have electricity with BG danger, and all of that. Okay, so you get the idea. You can just pause it and type them out, but I'm good here, so I'm going to go to the CSS and then give this some styling real quick. Let me just grab this. Actually, I will just call this cards. Okay, so let's move on to style the first payment. First payment. I can type today, huh? First, let's see what we have so far, and this is it. This is what we have from the HTML. So let's move on and give this some styling. Let's give this a margin top of 2 rem, just to push it down. Give it a display of flex, and I'm going to align items to the center and give it a gap of 2 rem. Perfect. Right, so this is what we have. Now let's target the badges. Okay, that's the UL, or the unadded list. So first payments badges, we give that a display of flex, of course, give it a gap of 1 rem, align items to the center. We set flex wrap to be wrap, so basically making it responsive, and then give it a max width of 100%. So that's what we have. Now let's target each badge. So each badge, in this case each LI, is going to have a background of color white. By the way, it just started raining, so I just hope my audio doesn't get distracted. So let's give it a display of flex as well. Let's align items to the center, give it a gap of 0.6 rem, and border radius of radius 1, give it a padding of 0.6 rem for the top and bottom, and then card padding for the left and right. And let's set a transition of the variable transition, right? So yeah, that's what we have so far. I'm going to get the div that is wrapping around the h5 and the h4. Okay, remember we had a div in the li right here that wraps around the h1 and the h4. Let's get that. And actually, you know what, let me get a span first. Okay, let me get a span. So for the span, I'm going to give that a width of 0.5 rem. I'm going to do same for the height, and a border radius of 50% to make it a circle. And now you can see our spans, which are the little colored dots. All right, now I'm actually going to give a hover effect to our badge. So on hover, I want the box, I want to give it a box shadow of 0.01 rem for the blur and color primary light. Okay, now I'm going to set the, let's see, yeah, that's good. Now let's get the div. Okay, let's get the div that I was talking about, the div that wraps around the div that has the h1, sorry, the h4 and the h5. We are going to display that to be flex, give it a gap of 1.5 rem, and align items to the center. And now that's what we have. Perfect. So that is it for the fast payment. That is it for the fast. Actually, you know what? Let me give this a cursor of pointer. Okay, so that it looks clickable. Yeah, that's it. Perfect. All right, so let's move on and get to the next section, which is going to be, in this case, the chart. We're going to have a lot of chart. So yeah, I'll just copy the comment, come way down right below the section, but still in the main tag. We're going to have a chart. Yep. And for the chart, you are only going to need a Canva tag with an ID of chart, and that's it. This is all we need for the HTML. I'm going to have some CSS here that we are going to need to make sure that this actually works, because we have to give this Canva some width, some height, and all that. Okay, so let's have that style before we get to the JavaScript to actually make this work. So let's give this a background of white. That's the color white. Let's give this a width. As I said, we need a width for it. Let's give it a margin top as well to push it down. A border radius of the radius 3. And lastly, I'm going to give it some padding as well, of card padding. Okay, and this is what we need for the CSS. All right, so for this to actually work, we have to use a library. Okay, so let's say chart.js. This is the library I'm going to use for this. All right, click on get started here, and then installation, and right here click on this. I'm probably going to leave a link for this, so just choose the latest version. In this case, that's 4.4.1, and copy the tag, okay, the HTML tag here. Come back to your HTML, and right before the body, closing body tag, I'm going to paste the script that I copied, okay, the CDN that I just copied. All right, now below the script, I'm going to have my own custom script. All right, so to make this work, we first have to get this canvas, or this Canva, however you call it, with the ID of charts. That's what we have to get, because that's where we want to render our graph or our charts, right? So let's get that. I'm going to call that charts, and document.query selector. We gave that an ID of charts, so we can just get it. And we are going to get a context of 2D. Okay, we are going to draw something on the screen, basically, or in that element, in that Canva. All right, so once we have this, of course, you should make sure you have this. Okay, you should make sure the script, that's the CDN of chart.js, is linked. That is, you copy as we did and then paste it here, and make sure it counts before your custom JavaScript file, right? So once you have that, we are going to create a new chart, and of course we have to give the first argument is the element that we want to render the chart in, which is this. And the second element is an object, and we need 3 things here. The first thing is the type of chart that we want, and it's going to be a line chart. We need the data, and then lastly we need some options. Okay, right, so we have the type, which is the line chart. For the options, we are just going to say responsive, come on, and then set that to true. Okay, we want this to be responsive. Now for the data, we need some labels. Okay, we need some labels for this. We need some data sets as well. So yeah, and you can have as many data sets as you want. Okay, so for the labels, these are just going to be the months of the year, and that's going to be January, February. You know what, I'm just going to paste this. All right, now for the data sets, as I said, you can have as many data sets as you want, and they are just going to be objects. And the first is the label. You have to give your data set a label, and it's going to be the BTC chart, okay, or the BTC data set, and the values that we need for each month that is going to be in this array. We need some border color to differentiate this data set from the other, and then we need a border width. I'm going to make that 2 pixels. All right, now for the data, I'm going to paste that as well, and as you can see, we have this corresponding to January, this corresponding to February, and it goes on like that. So if you have 12 elements here or 12 values here in the array for the labels, this should also be 12 so that they match. Okay, I hope that makes sense. All right, now the border color, the border width, this should be, yeah, that's it. All right, so that is for the first data set, which is the BTC. We have another one for Ethereum. So the label is going to be ETH. That's for Ethereum. And we need some data, which is an array. We need a border color. In this case, we are going to make it blue, and the border width is going to be the same as that of the BTC. So in this case, 2. And I'm going to paste the data for Ethereum as well. And we save, come back to our project, and nothing seems to be happening because I have a bad internet. Okay, my internet is messed up right now. All right, so let me reconnect my internet and then I'll get back to you guys. As you can see, I have the internet now connected, and so I'm going to refresh this and let's see what happens. You know what, let's get back to this page, and then I'm going to choose a different version. Let's choose version 3.6 right here and see what happens. I'm going to copy and then paste that instead of the 4.41. So I'll paste this and save, and now this actually works. Okay, so that is the version you should use. Okay, use the version 3.6.1. all right, so once you use that, this should work for you. And as I said, you can have as many data as you want, right? We only have BTC and Ethereum here, but you can go on and have as many as you want, right? You can just duplicate this and then have some for Litecoin, whatever coin you want, right? And that's it for the chart. And so we can move on to the next section of this page, and that's going to be this right section, starting with the investments. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and close this chart.js. All right, so let's get back to the HTML. I'm going to copy this comments, and this is going to be below the main tag. Okay, the main is for the middle, and we are done with that. So we are going to focus on the right side, in this case the investment. Before we work on the right side, let me quickly explain something to you. I had a style on the body. Okay, I displayed grid, and the grid template columns was, I think, 17 for the left, auto for the, let me show you real quick. So right here you can see the display for the body was grid, right? And then the grid template columns, as you can see, 17 on the left, which is the sidebar, auto for the middle, which is the main that we just completed, and then 30 rems for the right. Okay, I want to point this out because I don't think I explained it. Okay, I told you I'll come back to it. So that's it. So this side is the 17 rems. This middle part with the cars and the charts and all that, that is the auto. Okay, and then this side, the right side here, the empty space that we are going to fill is the 30 rems. Okay, so that is the structure I have for the entire page. And so yeah, that's it. Okay, I just want to make sure you understand that part. All right, so let's get back to the investments. And so we are going to have a section here with a class of, come on, a section with a class of right. And in here, we are going to have the investments. Okay, so with this investments, let's actually put this in a section as well, right? So section with a class of investments, plural. And so we are going to have an H2 that will say investments. Below that, we are going to have an anchor tag. That's not going to go anywhere. But inside the anchor tag, we are going to say more and have an icon. So let's quickly get back to icon scout and grab a down, no, a right arrow instead. Yep, this one is good. And I'll just paste it right here. Perfect. All right, if you want, of course, you can put this in a paragraph, in a span, anything you want, right? I'll just leave it like this. And right below the header, actually, let me put this in a header tag. Okay, so you have a header tag with a class of investment header, and then we'll have this. Hope that makes sense. So right below the header, I'm going to have an article tag. So basically each investment is going to be inside an article tag with a class of investment. Now each investment is going to have an image. So we have to go into our assets, and in this case I'm going to grab the Unilever logo, Unilever, and I don't know if that's the right spelling, but you know, I don't have time for corrections. So we'll say Unilever in an H4. Below the H4, we are going to have a div with a class of date time. And so we have a paragraph. This will say 7th or 7 November. So 7th November 2024. And below that, we are going to have a small tag. Let's actually give this a class of text muted, which will give it a faded color or a light gray color, and the time is 9:14 p.m. Okay, right below this div we are going to have another div with a class of bond, and we are going to have a paragraph. Below the paragraph, you are going to have a small tag with a class of text muted as well. And below this div as well, we are going to have another div with a class of amount and an H5 that will say the amount, and then another small tag with a class of danger. So that is for one investment. Okay, and this is for one single investment. All right, so what I'm going to do is actually duplicate this just for the styling. Okay, I'll come back to fill in some dummy text to make this look good, or like just to have different content for the different investments cards. So we can right away come back to our CSS and give this some styling. So I'll just copy this, come down, paste it. This will be investment. All right, first let's see what we have so far from the HTML, and this is it. Okay, this is what we have. So let's go ahead and give this some styling. I'll just bring this to the left, make it a little bit smaller. Yeah, perfect. All right, so let's get the right side and give it a margin top of 6 rem, and also a margin right of 2 viewport width. Let's get the investments section and give it a background of white, so color white, and a border radius of radius 3. Okay, what is happening? You know what, I'm going to use a different, instead of this I'm going to stop it and then use the preview on server or whatever it's called. Okay, hopefully that works better. All right, so let's progress, and I'm going to get the investments header. All right, display that to be flex, give that, or I'm going to align items to the center. I'm going to justify content to be spaced between, and a padding of card padding. Perfect. So this is actually working better now. I'm going to target the links. Actually, it's only one link, this link right here, the investments header, and then the link inside of that. I'm going to display that to be flex, align items to the center, and give a color of color primary. Yeah, that's what we have. Now let's target the image, okay, or the images. In this case, there are multiple images, so I'm going to target the image inside each investment and give that a width of 2.4 rem. Perfect. Now let's target the investment itself, right? Investment. Each investment is going to have a display of flex, an align items of center, justify content to be spaced between, a padding of card padding, a border bottom of 1 pixel solid color light, and a transition of variable transition. So investment on hover, I want the background to be color light and the cursor to be pointer. All right, so this is what we have. Okay, now I think that is it. And so I'm going to go ahead and just change the content. You know, this all Unilever. I want to change it to make it more dynamic. So let me do that off screen and I'll get back to you. All right, so that is it. I just changed this to, wait, let me have a comma here. Yep, so there's the changes I made, and so you can go ahead and then type it out, or yeah, so that's it. Let's see what we have so far, and is it okay? So perfect, and that's all for the investments. Now let's proceed to the next section of the page. In this case, some recent transactions should be down here. So let's move on to that. Back into our HTML. I'm just going to copy this comment and come down here and then paste that. Recent transactions. All right, let's have a section here as well with a class of recent transactions. And let's have a header with a class of recent, recent transactions header. And in here, we are going to have an H2, that will say recent transactions. Below that, we are going to have a link, just like we had for the investment. So a link that is not going to go anywhere. We have more, and then the arrow. So I'll just go ahead and grab that arrow. Okay, and then paste it in the link. What is happening? Perfect. All right, now that's all for the header. Below the header, we are going to have the individual transactions. So an article with a class of transaction. And so you have a div transaction service and then transaction card details. All right, so for the transaction service, I'm going to have a div with a class of icon and another class of bg purple light. Okay, now inside this I'm going to have an icon, and that's going to be a headphone. Right here I'm going to use this one, and below this I'm going to have the transaction details, and this is going to have an h4. This will say music, and below that you have a paragraph of the date, so 20th November 2024. And so for the card details, I'm going to have transaction card image, and I'm actually going to give this another class of bg danger, and it's going to have an image. So let's go into our assets and then get the visa png. Next to this div, I'm going to have transaction details, and we are going to have a paragraph that will give the last few digits or the last 4 digits of the card, and we'll have a small tag with a class of text muted. I know this is boring, but you know, I can't help it. Right, so the last thing we are going to have actually is right before this div. We'll have an h4. In this case, it's going to say negative $20. Right, and that's it. Okay, this is for one transaction. All right, so what I'm going to do is duplicate this at least 4 times or 3 times, and then we are going to style it. Okay, and I'll come back to actually change the content for some of the ones that we just duplicated. All right, so this is going to be recent transactions. I'll make this smaller. First of all, let's see what we have from the, wait a minute. Okay, so there's it. This is what we have from the HTML. So let's make sure this actually looks good. All right, so let's get a recent transactions section. Give it a margin top of 2 rem and a max width of 100%. Okay, now why is this not in, wait a minute. Okay, so you know what, yeah, I made a mistake, right? So this should be inside of the right. Okay, so I'll just copy up to right here. I'll copy that and then paste it or move it up into the right. Okay, so yeah, perfect. Let me show you real quick. So this is the end of the section I just clicked, which should be the right. And so let's scroll up, and there's it. Okay, so as you can see, it should also be in the right. It should be a sibling of the investments, if that makes sense. All right, so now we get it in the right place. Okay, so let's proceed and get the recent transactions header. Give it a display of flex. Align items to the center. Justify content to be spaced between, and give it a pattern left of 2 rem. Perfect. Right now, recent transactions header and then the anchor tag, I'll display that to be flex and align items to the center. Okay, there's it. Actually, I'm going to give that a color of primary as well. Wait a minute. Recent transactions header. Did I make any mistakes with the spelling? Let's see. Recent transactions header. Okay, right, perfect. All right, so let's move on and get the transaction. So each article with a class of transaction. Let me make this, yeah. I'll display flex, align items to the center, justify content to be spaced between. I'll give it a padding of 1.5 rem for the top and bottom, and then card padding for the left and right. Border radius of radius 3. And lastly, I'll give it a transition of the variable transition. Boom, and we have that. Now I'll give it a hover effect. On hover, the background should be white and the cursor should be a pointer. You know what, let's target the service. Okay, in this side, so transaction service, display flex and a gap of 1 rem. All right, now let's target the icon. So transaction service and then the icon, give it a padding of 0.5 rem, border radius of radius 2, display of flex, align items of center, font size of 1.7 rem. We save this and this is what we have. I'm actually going to give this a width. Okay, so let me give that a width. So I'm going to remove the padding and give it a width of about 3.4 rem. I'm going to do the same for the height. It's going to be 3.4 rem. And I'm going to display this to be, it's already displayed flex. So I just have to justify content to be center as well. Perfect. All right. So that's how I want it. Now let's move on to the details. Okay. So transaction card details, display flex, justify content to be, sorry, justify self is going to be flex that, and I'm going to give a gap of 1 rem. Right, now I'm going to get the image. Okay, the visa right here, I'm going to get that, and that is transaction card image. I'll display that to be flex. I'll give it a width of 3.4 rem, border radius of radius 1, align items to the center, justify content to the center, and yeah, that's it. Okay, that is it. Let me actually have some space right here. So I'm going to give a margin bottom of 1 rem. Perfect. Actually, I'll just give it a margin top and bottom. So margin on the top and bottom is going to be 1 rem, and on the left and right 0. Perfect. All right, so I'll just go ahead and change the content in the HTML to make this dynamic. So I'll just do so off screen right now and then come back to you. All right, so that is it. I just changed the content, and so yeah, and some of the classes for the icon. Some are lights, purple, and all that. Some are danger, some are warning, and all that. Okay, so that's it. Let's see what we have. And wait a minute. Let me correct this real quick. Transaction card, transaction, transaction. Transaction card image. Okay, I missed the C. I missed the C. So yep. We save this, come back, and this is what we have. Perfect. All right. You know what? I should make these purple. What do you think? Oh, I'll just leave it like this. All right. So that is it for the homepage. Okay, that's it for the entire desktop version of the homepage. I think the next thing we want to do is to make sure this is responsive, and that means we want to make sure this looks good on tablets, mobile phones, and other smaller devices. Okay, so let's go ahead and work on that right now, and that's going to be in the CSS. Of course, we're going to use media queries to achieve this. We're going to have a media query for tablets first, and then we'll have another for mobile phones. All right, so for the media queries, let's see, I'll put this on the side like that, and maybe make this 75. No, that's too big. I'll choose a different, maybe yeah, iPad Pro is good. All right, so let's go ahead and make this responsive. I'll put this on this side and make it even smaller like that. Perfect. All right, so add media, screen, and max width of 1024 pixels and below. We want these styles. First of all, I'm going to get the body and say great templates columns should be 1FR. So I save this, and this is what we have. Okay, not too bad, I guess. But let's proceed and let's get the nav search. I'm going to not need that on tablets. Okay, so I remove that, and let's get the nav menu btn. Here I'm going to display that to be inline block. Okay, so we have it right here. And so let's move on and get the main and give it a great templates columns. Great templates columns of 1FR, and also give it a pattern of 1FR. Sorry, 0 on the top and bottom, and then 1 rem for the left and right. Okay, now we have to take care of the sidebar. So let's target the sidebar, give it a position of fixed, and it's going to be 0 from the top right there, and from the left. For now I'll keep it at 0, but we are going to change it. Right, I'll give it a z index of 3. Come on, z index of 3, not 3 pixels, but 3. And the background, I'll give it a white. I'll give it a width of, actually, should I just give it a fit content? I'll give it a height. It has a height already, right? So no need. But let's give it a box shadow of 2 rem for the x-axis, 0 for the y-axis, and 2 for the blur, RGBA of black with some transparency. In this case, 12% alpha, but let me make it 15% alpha, right? So that's what we have. And let's see, I'm going to give it a, you know what? That's enough for now, okay? But you know, we should have a close. Actually, I'm going to make this wider. Okay, so let's give it a width. Sorry, I'm going to change the width to be 22 rem, just to make it bigger. Okay, maybe even 25 or 20. I'll just keep it at 22 rem. Okay, so that's it. Now we will need a close button. Okay, on click of this, we want to open it, but we need a close button here as well so that we can close it once we open. All right, so remember we have that button already, so let's get that. Sidebar close btn, and let's display that to be inline block. Let's give it a position of absolute. Let's give it a top of 2 rem and the right of 1.5 rem, font size of 2.2 rem, and the background of transparent. We save this, and sidebar close btn. Why is it not showing? Interesting. Wait a minute, did I not have that? You know, sidebar we had. Okay, so we don't have that button, right? So let's have a button here with a class of sidebar close btn, and inside this we are going to have a close icon. All right, so let's have a close. Perfect. All right, so now you can see it. Okay, so back to the css. For now, I'll remove the sidebar. I'll move it off screen. So this is going to be negative 100%, right? Which is going to take it off screen, right? We're actually going to use animation to bring it in, and maybe I should even have that keyframe right here. So let's have a keyframe for the animation. I'm going to call this show sidebar. That's the name of the keyframe, and just going to go to a left of 0. It will just bring it to the right position. That's all. All right, so let's have animation show sidebar 400 milliseconds, and is for the timing function, and forwards for the fail mode. Okay, perfect. All right, so for now we can't close, or we can show or close it. Okay, we don't have that functionality. We are going to use JavaScript, but let me finish with this media query before we do that. All right, so let's come down here and get the, I'll comment this out for now. Let's come down here and get the main cards. Should I just leave it like this? This doesn't look bad, right? So I'll just leave it like this, but everything looks perfect here. Okay, so I'll just grab this right side and reduce the margin top to 0. Okay, or maybe 2 rem. Yeah, perfect. All right, or maybe even make it 1 rem is good, and that's it. Okay, so this for tablets. This is for tablets. Now let's see Nah, I think, let me rephrase this. This still doesn't look too bad. But I think for the card, or for the cards, let's see, I'll just is it main cards? Yeah. The great template columns should be 1FR, 1FR. Okay, now let's see. Yeah. Yeah, I'll just keep it like this. Okay. So that's the media queries for tablets. That is the media queries for tablets. And I'm just going to copy this for mobile phones. So for mobile phones, that will be 600 pesos and below. Of course, you can use your own values. Maybe 600 pesos is too much. You can use whatever value works for you. So on phones, first of all, I want let's see, I'm going to get the nav and give it a height of 5 rem just to increase it. I'll get the nav profile and have a gap of only 1 rem. Wait, did I even work? Of the nav profile. I'm going to get the nav profile wrapper H5 and display that to be none. Okay, or should I just keep that? Let's see. Yeah, I'll display that to be none. Actually, I'll get the span as well. So now profile wrapper and then the span. I will display that to be none as well. Okay, now let's get the main cards, and in here the grid template columns is going to be 1FR so that we don't have this overflow. I'll just refresh this. Yeah, perfect. Right, everything is looking amazing so far except for this fast payment. So let's target that. So fast payment, and the flex direction here is going to be column, align items, flex start, and margin top of 3.5 rem maybe. Yep, perfect. And I think that's it, guys. I think that is it for the entire media queries. Okay, so this looks good on mobile phones, as you can see right now, and it looks good on tablets as well, as you can see right here. Okay, let me rephrase this. Right here, you can see this looks good on tablets, and it looks good on desktop as well. So that is the responsiveness completely done for this page. All right, so the next thing I think we have to do before we move on to creating the transaction and the wallet page is the theme customization. Okay, we have to be able to change this to be a dark theme as well. I almost forgot we have to have the functionality for closing and opening of the sidebar on smaller devices. Okay, so let me refresh this and let's come back to the CSS. Okay, so initially wait a minute. Right, initially this should be displayed none. Okay, and we are going to use JavaScript to actually control it. All right, so this should be way up top, and I want the chart to be the last thing in the JavaScript file. So I'm going to come up top here and have the show hide sidebar menu. Okay, so first let's get a button, this button right here that we are going to click to show it. You will get the close button as well, and then we'll get the sidebar itself, right? So let's get the sidebar itself first. Sidebar, you'll get a close. That's a close. I'll just call it close sidebar. Come on, ATM. And that is, I think, sidebar close BTN. That's the class we gave it. And lastly, the open sidebar BTN. And we gave that nav menu BTN. That's the class we gave it, right? Let's see. Okay, so it is for the close. And yeah, nav menu BTN. That's it. All right, so what we are going to do is to put an event listener on this. Okay, so add event listener. There's going to be a click event, and on click we want to run this function right here, this anonymous function. And all we are going to do is to set the sidebar style display to be block. Okay, remember I just set it to a display of none. So in this case, once we click, we are setting it back to block, right? Or actually, should it be flex? Because the sidebar, yeah, I'm going to set it to be flex instead. Sorry. So I'll set it to flex. Now let's try this. I'm going to click, and boom, we have it slide from the left side. Perfect. And to close it, we are just going to have an event listener on this. So that's the close sidebar BTN event listener, and we are going to display none. Simple as that. All right, so now we can show and then hide the sidebar. Okay, it should work for tablets as well, of course. So we should be able to close and show it on tablets as well. All right, and that's it, guys. That is it. And so we should move on to making this dark theme thing. Okay, so let's move on to that. To achieve this dark theme functionality, it's going to be very easy because we used CSS variables. Okay, so basically what we are going to do is to put a class on the body tag if you are on dark theme. Okay, and if you want to get back to the light theme, then we are going to remove that class. I hope that makes sense. Right, so to achieve that, actually, let me just increase the size of this real quick, and then we progress or we proceed. And that is with the cards. I'm going to the header left right here. Where is it? The font width here. I'm going to make that 300. Yeah, that's better. All right, so as I was saying, we will just have a class since we used CSS variables. For instance, okay, so let me explain this very well to you. It's just swapping the darker colors with the light colors, and then the lighter colors with the dark colors. That's just the toggle that we are going to do here. Okay, so for instance, in this case, the white or the very white colors are going to be dark, and the dark colors are going to be lighter. Okay, so the background, for instance, for this is going to be black, and then this text is going to be white. We are just going to reverse the colors. I hope that makes sense. So for instance, this can be 000. If I save, this is how it's going to look. And the color light is going to be, let's say, 222. And this is how that's going to look too. So basically, we are on a track to achieving a dark theme. I hope that makes sense. So CSS variables comes in very, very handy when creating a website that is going to need multiple themes, right? And we are going to put a class on the body and say, oh, if the body has a class of dark theme, then we want to use different CSS variables, right? So I'm going to have a class here called dark theme, right? And if the body has this class, then we are going to use these variables. So in this case, the color white is going to be very dark. The color light is going to be dark as well, a little lighter than the color white. The color dark, which should be dark, is actually going to be white in this case, or very light. And then the color gray dark is also going to be light as well. I hope that makes sense. All right, so let me actually leave a comment here. Basically, you get the idea. So what we are going to do is to get this button or this icon that we are going to click to toggle this, and then just manipulate this with JavaScript. Okay, so let's get back to our JavaScript file and work on this theme. I'll leave a comment here. Let's get a theme btn, and what class did we give it? That's nav theme btn, right? And we are going to have an event listener on this. It's going to be a click event, and on click we want to just toggle this. Okay, so we say document dot body dot class list dot toggle the dark theme class that we have. Okay, this dark theme class. Okay, so it's just going to toggle these variables. All right, so let's try this. We go here and then we click this. Boom, we have a dark theme. It's just this simple. Okay, if we click again, we have a light theme. We click, we have a dark theme. Now what I want to do is to give this color white, so that, wait a minute, let's see, I'll scroll down to the nav, and okay, I'll just target it. So nav, is it nav theme btn or what? Not yet. Nav theme btn. I'll give it a color of color white, sorry, color dark. Yeah, perfect. So now we can see it. Okay, so if we are on dark theme, one thing I want to do is to change this icon to be the sun icon. Okay, so that we can we can have some difference there as well. So I'm going to search the sun icon here, copy that, and back to the JavaScript. What I'm going to say is I'm going to check if document dot body dot class list contains a dark theme class. Okay, if it has a dark theme class. If so, then we know we are on dark theme. And so I'm going to say the theme button dot inner HTML should be equal to this, that is the sun. Okay, the sun icon that I just copied, right? And actually I want to also save the changes to local, or save theme to local storage. Okay, so that it persists whenever we come back to the website. The theme that we chose is going to be the default theme. Okay, I hope that makes sense. So we are going to say local storage dot set item, and we are going to call this current theme. And if we are on dark theme, then we want to set this class, the dark theme class. All right, otherwise then we just want to, I'll just paste this here, and this is going to be the moon, and I'll just copy this as well, paste that, and this is going to be blank or empty. Okay, if you're on light theme, then the body doesn't have any color, but if you're on dark theme, then it's going to have sorry, it doesn't have any class. But if you're on dark theme, then it's going to have the dark theme class. I hope that makes sense. All right, so that is it. Let's try this out. I'll go ahead and click. Boom, and we have it. Okay, I'll click again, and now we're on light theme. And this is the functionality I'm looking for. Now you can see that we have a smooth transition from the light to the dark and vice versa. And that is because I put a transition property on the body. Okay, so if you come to the body, you can see we have a transition, right? If I should give it, let's say, transition duration of about 3 seconds, you should see this clearly, right? Perfect. So that's it, right? That's too slow, so I'll keep it at the default variable transition. Okay, so that's it. And of course, this should be saved to the local storage. So if I choose a dark theme and I refresh, of course, it should be saved. If we inspect this, go to application and then check this local storage right here. You can see we have the dark theme. Okay, we have it, but it is not shown because we are not fetching it back and then applying it on the body. So let's do that real quick. Let's get back here, and we are going to say document.body.class name should be equal to local storage dot get item, and the item we said was current theme. That's the name of the thing we are trying to save. So we are getting that item, and then we are setting that whatever class that is saved in the local storage, we are setting that as the body. And now, since I saved, you can see we have the dark theme, since that was what is saved in the local storage. But the thing is, you can see the icon doesn't really conform to the theme that we are currently on. We have the dark theme, and so the sun icon should be showing, but that is not happening. So let's correct that. And so, or is it? Yeah. So down here, what I'm going to do is to just basically do the same thing that I did here. So I'll just copy this and just paste it. I don't do anything else. So I'll just save this. And now you can see we have that. Okay, so if I change to light and I refresh, you can see we have light and the icon corresponds to the theme that we have. If I change to dark, you can see we have dark theme and the icon also corresponds. Now, as I said, this is saved to local storage. So for instance, if I close this browser and then come back, this should work. Okay, this should keep the theme that I chose. Okay, so this is a new browser and I'm on the dark theme. Okay, if I should change this to the light theme here and then refresh, it keeps the light theme, and here too it keeps the light theme. I hope that makes sense. All right, so that's it, guys. That's for the theme customization, the light and the dark theme, and we are done with this page completely. Let's move on to the next page, which is going to be the transactions page. All right, let's get to the let's open the transaction HTML. And actually, I'm just going to copy everything from the nav, actually from the sidebar. From the sidebar app, I'm going to copy everything from the index and then paste it in the transactions. I'll get back to the index way at the bottom. I'm going to copy the script, body, and the closing HTML tags. Okay, I'll copy those as well and then paste it down here. Perfect. All right, so now if I refresh, yeah, that's what we have. Okay, now the CSS is not working here because we have to relink it, like we have to correct the path. So we are going up one more folder into the parent folder, and then we are getting the style CSS. So now if I save, you can see sometimes some styles are working already, but the images are not. Okay, so let's correct the path for those as well. So this for the logo, and this for the profile right here. Okay, and that's it. That is it. Okay, so let's see, why is this here? Right, so I didn't spot this earlier. In the style CSS, and in the sidebar actually, we have to get this and then display it now. Okay, it is only going to be needed on tablets and then mobile phones, right? So even before the links, I'm going to get I give that a class of what nav, sorry, sidebar close button. Yeah, I'll display that now. Okay, but I'll just make sure it's present here, and it is. So that's it. All right, so let's get back to the transactions page again. And what else do we need to correct? Of course, the active link should be on the transaction, and here we have to go into the main project folder, and then we get the index HTML. Now the active class is I'm going to be on the transaction link. Okay, and for the wallet as well, we have to go up one more folder, and that's it. Okay, that is it. Lastly, for the main JS, we have to go up, and I think we need to link the transaction CSS file as well. Okay, perfect. So now for the transactions page, we are going to have a table in here. Okay, we are going to have a table. So right below the sidebar, I'm going to have a section for that. Oh, I don't even need a section. I'll just have a table right away. So let's have a table with a class of transactions table, and you have our T head and our T body. In our T head, we are going to have our table row, and the first table head is going to be, or table heading is going to be transaction ID. I'll duplicate this a few more times. We'll have date, from, to, we'll have coin, amount. I'll duplicate this 2 more times. We have status, and lastly note. All right, now for the T body, we are going to have a table row, of course, and our table data, and the first is the ID. So let's just have some random number here. I'll duplicate this a few more times just to correspond with this. Of course, we need the date. In this case, I'll just do 23rd November, sorry, September 2024. I'll get the name, to, and from and to. I'll get the coin. I'll get the amount. I'll get the note, and lastly the status. Now the status is actually going to have a class, okay, and it's going to be success. All right, so what I'm going to do is just duplicate this a bunch of times just so we can style it, and then I'll come back to actually have some different content in here. Okay, so that's for the table. That's what we have so far. Not too bad, I guess. But let's get to the CSS, and actually I'm going to close this general style, and I'm going to open the transaction CSS. And also make sure in the transaction HTML, make sure the general styles, that's where we had our variables and all that, make sure that comes before the transaction CSS, okay? Because some styles are going to be overwritten here in the transaction CSS. I hope that makes sense. All right, so I'll make this a little smaller here. And yeah, let's get to the CSS. That should be in here, of course. And yeah, that's it. All right, so what I'm going to do is duplicate this a bunch of times. And we are going to style it, okay, before I come back to actually put in some real content. All right, so let's get to the transaction CSS and give this some styling. Let's first see what we have so far. All right, so this is what we have, but we are going to make it look even better. All right, so let's get the body, and here I'm going to change the grid template columns to be 17 rem for the sidebar, and then auto for the rest. Okay, so it's going to take the remaining space. Let's get the transactions table and give it a height of fit content and a margin top of 6 rem just to push it down. Let's get the transactions table th and give it a text align of left and a padding of 0.8 rem. We have that. Now let's get the transactions table data, or TD, and give it a padding of 1 rem, so we have some space. And lastly, I'm going to get the T-body TR and child. In this case, I'm going to use the odd. Okay, I want the odd to have a different background, right? So let's give them a background of color white. All right, so now there's our table. Perfect. And this is basically done. Okay, this is basically done, except for the media queries, which we should do right away. So I'll just let me just copy the comments here for the media queries, right? Perfect. So just copy this and paste it. Come on, what's going on? Okay, I'll just paste it here. So for the media queries on tablets, I'll just change the grid templates columns for the body to be 1FR. Okay, that's all I need to do here. All right, so it fills the entire space. And for the mobile phones, I'll just change. There's going to be 600 pesos, and below I'll get the transactions table T-head TR and set the display to be flex and the flex direction to be column. All right, so let's see on phone. I'll refresh this, and this is how it looks. Wait a minute. Max width. This should be mobile or phones, I guess. I don't think I made that correction here as well. Yep, this should be phones. Okay, so T-head TR display flex direction column. Why is it not working? Oh, it should be. Well, we should do that for the T body as well. Okay, so I'll just do it this way. So transaction table T body TR, we save that, and this is what we have here as well. Perfect. Now I think that's it, but I just want to have a little style for the even. Okay, so T body TR, nth child. I'm going to give that a border left of 2 pixels, solid color white. Okay, yes, so we have, I don't know if it's even noticeable, but I'm going to make that 2 rem so that you just see it clearly. Wait a minute. TR nth child even. Solid. Yep. It should be solid. All right, so we have just a slight border on the left for the ones with the darker gray. Okay, it's not really noticeable, so let me show you right here. Okay, so we have a little border there. I'm going to change it back to 2 pixels. All right, so that is it for the transactions page, and of course the theme customization should work here as well, or the dark theme should work here as well, and it is working. Okay, so that is it for this page. Of course, I should go back to the HTML and make sure the content is a little bit dynamic. Okay, so I'm going to do that off screen and I'll get back to you real quick. All right, so I just changed all the contents. Now let's see, and this is what we have. Okay, you can see some are pending, completed, and some have been cancelled, right? So that's it, guys. That's it. Now I have to be able to click this to go to the home page, and it's not working. So let's fix that right now. That's the nav, the logo. The link should take us to the index.html. So let's go back up one more folder into the main root. So we'll go up into the main root and then we get the index.html. So now if I hit this logo, I come back to the main page or the home page. Perfect. All right, so let's work on the next page, which is the wallet page. So with that, I'll just copy from the top here, then paste that in the wallet HTML, and I'll copy from the bottom here as well, and then paste that here. Perfect. All right, let's make the little adjustments real quick. This was linked, so I can just leave that. Now the active is going to be on the wallet link. Okay, so in this case we are in the same folder, so I'll just remove one dot. But for the transactions, we have to go back into the main folder or the root of the project, and then we get the transactions folder before we get the transactions HTML. What else? Now this is going to be wallet CSS, and yeah, I think that is it. So if I save this and come back to the project and refresh, that's what we have. Okay, we can click to go home. and come back to the wallet as well. All right, so let's work on the wallet real quick. Now, right below the sidebar is where we are going to have the content for this wallet. This should be straightforward as well. Let's have a section with a class of wallet. And first at the top, you're going to have some balance. Okay, so wallet balance. And in that, let's have an H4 that will say total balance. And in this H4, beside this text, I'm going to have an icon. That's just going to be the icon right here. Actually, should be this. Yep, and I'll just paste that in here. Let's have an H1 here, which is going to have the actual balance. And so right. All right, so let's have a div with a class of wallet underscore CTA. And in that, we are going to have 3 links. The first one, of course, each link is going to have a class of wallet CTA BTN, and it's not going to go anywhere. But in that, we are going to have an icon. The first one is going to be an arrow up. Basically, we are sending, or it's a send link. So if you want to send a cryptocurrency, and let's have a paragraph tag that's going to say send. Okay, so that's it. You have receive and then share links as well. There's going to be receive, so there's going to be arrow down, and there's going to be share. So let me get a share icon here. I'll just use this one. Perfect. All right, so that is for the first part of this wallet. Now below the wallet balance, we are going to have another div. Actually, this is going to be an added list, and let's give it a class of wallet tokens. And the list item is going to have a class of wallet token singular. Now let's have a div with a class of wallet token left, and in that we are going to have an image with a class of wallet token image. So let's have the image. We have to go into our assets and grab the Bitcoin SVG. I'm not going to have any alts, but below the div, that's below the wallet token image, I'm going to have another div with no class, but I'm going to have an H4 here that will say Bitcoin, and below that H4 I'm going to have another div. And lastly, a sibling of this div is going to be another div with a class of wallet token, right? Come on, right here, with an H4 1 BTC and a paragraph. I would say $55,000. All right, so what I'm going to do is just duplicate this as usual a few times, and we can go ahead and style this. Let's get in. Actually, that should be inside the wallet CSS. First of all, let's see what we have so far, and there's it. Okay, so let's go ahead and style this. And guys, to be honest, we've written so much CSS already, so for this one I'll just paste it and then get walk you through it. So yeah, there's it. Okay, it's that simple. It is that simple. All right, we just have some styling for the, you know, for the balance and then the tokens as well. Okay, so yeah, of course we just change the grid template columns for the body. We get the wallet itself, you push it down a little bit, we get a balance, we display and all that, text align and all that. And yeah, this is very simple, guys. You can just pause and then type them out yourself. You should understand what is going on here, of course. I've explained everything along the way, so you should know how this actually works. All right, so yeah, now let's go ahead and I'm going to actually make sure the content here is a little bit dynamic. We only have Bitcoin here, so I'm going to paste some other content here. All right, so I just pasted it. So there's it. You can go ahead and type them out. So if I save this and then I come back to the project, that's what we have. Okay, so this is it for the entire project. Of course, the dark theme should work perfectly here as well. This is it for the entire project. And now I think we can go ahead and deploy this to the internet or put it on the internet. Now to deploy the website, all we are going to do is make sure our project, that's the entire project, is in a zip file. Okay, so I'm actually going to create a new folder here and I'm going to select everything else but that folder. Okay, so I'll select everything that was in the project and I will copy all of that and then paste it inside a new folder that I just created. All right, so this folder is what I'm going to create or turn into a zip file. So I'll go to send to and then compress. Right, I'll create a zip file out of that. So I can go ahead and delete this new folder. I don't need it. And this zip file is what we are going to upload or deploy or put on our server. All right, so make sure you are logged into your Hostinger H panel. Make sure you are logged in. And I'm being logged in right now, as you can see. And right away, you are going to see your domain name and you are going to see this business web hosting, right? And your domain name is going to be here. That's the domain name you claimed for free, right? So once you see that, go ahead and click on manage. Right now, if you paid attention, you will know that this is not the domain name I claimed. Okay, but this should work the same. Yours should be selected by default, but I'm using this domain name because the other one that I claimed, I'm using it for a different thing. Okay, so it should be the same process that you should follow. Yours that you claimed should be selected by default. If it is not selected, go ahead and select it from this drop down. Okay, so click this drop down and then select the domain you want to upload this project on or deploy this project on. All right, so once you have the domain selected, go ahead and click this file manager. Now go to public underscore HTML and we are going to delete everything in this folder. Okay, so select everything and hit the trash icon and everything is deleted. Now let's go ahead and upload the zip file that we created. So we are going to hit upload right here and then click on file and locate the zip file that you created. Okay, so this is what we are going to upload. Now let's go ahead and extract this, and I'm going to extract it here in the public underscore HTML. So I'll just do dot and hit extract. We've extracted the zip file, so we can go ahead and delete the zip file. And now this is our project. Okay, so we have to make sure everything in here is directly inside the public underscore HTML. So we select everything in the new folder and then we move it into the public HTML. So as you can see, let me do it one more time. So I select everything and I want to go back up into the public underscore HTML, right? So I will select everything as I said and I hit move. And as you can see, we have two dots, meaning we are going back up one folder. Okay, so I'll hit this and I'll click on move. I hope that makes sense. So now this folder, that's a new folder, should be empty, so we can go ahead and trash it. And now everything in here that's inside the public HTML should match what we had when we finished creating the website. I hope that makes sense. So I'm going to delete the zip and everything in here should look exactly as we have in the public underscore HTML. And literally now our website is live. So if we should select the domain that we just deployed our website on and we visit that right now, we should see our website. And as you can see, it is protected. Okay, we have that SSL encryption, meaning our website is secure from any hacks. Okay, we have our lights and dark theme. We can go to the wallet page and all that. Everything is working exactly as expected. All right, so that's it for the entire project. Thanks for watching and I will see you in the next one.